Oi, you're tuned in to Jai That Aussie Metal Guy, so make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any of his sick content. And remember, stay brutal, you legend.
G'day, how you all going? It's Jai, that Aussie Metal Guy. So tonight, wherever you are, it was a great pleasure that I'm getting to have a chat with Timothy Nordwind of the boundary-pushing, award-winning rock band OK Go, known for their infectious melodies, ingenious music videos, and fearless creativity. OK Go has been redefining the boundaries of art and music for nearly 3 decades. From choreographed treadmill dances to zero-gravity visuals, they've taken the phrase thinking outside the box to stratospheric heights. And now with their first studio album in nearly a decade, or just over a decade, pardon me, and The Adjacent Possible is an amazing release. It did drop on April 11th. Thank you so much for joining me, my friend. Absolute bloody pleasure.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me. What a wonderful introduction. Thank you.
No, I mean every word of it, mate. And The Adjacent Possible marks your first studio album in over a decade. Tell me a little bit about what inspired you guys to come together to make this album, and what was it like with the songwriting process?
Yeah, it sounds weird that it's the first one in 10 years. We've been working this whole time, if you can believe it. We put our fourth record was called Hungry Ghosts, and that came out in 2015. We make a lot of videos for our records. They usually take between 4 and 6 months. We made about 6 or 7 videos for Hungry Ghosts. So, the first 5 years right there, we were just basically, making stuff for that record. And if we weren't making videos for it, we were out on tour on that record. And so, yeah, we basically went from like 2015 to 2019 or so, just releasing songs from that records and making videos and everything like that. When we stopped touring, we were pretty spent. We were pretty burnt out. It was a long run, and all we really wanted to do was just like get back in the studio. That was the thing. We love being in the studio and writing and producing music. That's like one of a few different real happy places that we have. And so when we were feeling really burnt out by touring and having made all these videos, which we love, but it's a lot of work. We really were just like kind of not quite sure which way was up. And so the idea was like, all right, well look, let's just get ourselves back in the studio. Let's start writing music again. Kind of haven't done that in a while. And let's just see like how do we feel now? Are we still into this? Like, like is this something we still want to do? And we started writing in 2019, and then the pandemic hit. Also, our guitarist had kids. Our singer Damien had kids, and they're so understandably everybody wanted to like spend time with their families. But we were still always passing demos around, and all I can say about this, well, not all I can say, but one of the main things I can say about this record is that I'm not sure we've ever sounded more comfortable in our own skin. And it sort of feels like, we've always written with a kind of mixtape mentality because I think we're such music fans.
Yep.
There's a pretty broad spectrum of music that we love, and we just can't. We've never been at like just picking one sound. And we grew up on mixtapes and things like that. And pop radio, when we grew up, was like, it was like Prince next to Devo, next to the Talking Heads. It's just like, it was like all over the place. Um, and hip hop was just emerging. And, there are all these different styles that were getting, Metallica was huge. We loved it all. There's just like, we really did love it all. So there's something about like, I don't know, this time, like, we just didn't pay attention to what was on what was in the charts,
Yep.
what was trending. None of us are that big on TikTok, like, like, or like social media in general. So, like, we weren't following trends. We really were just kind of like trying to figure out what was going to sound most uniquely us, I guess, at the end of the day. And it sort of feels like what ended up sounding most uniquely us was like a little bit of late era Bowie,
Yep.
a little bit of Nile Rodgers, some Phil Spector sound, Wall of Sound, um, and a little bit of George Martin with the Beatles. Like there's just like all this stuff, but I think we really did grow up on it, and somewhere in us, all that stuff, I feel like just kind of was like the motor that drove us, I think. And we just kind of like just went with whatever sounded great to us in any given week and any given month.
I
And
absolutely love this album. It has so many different elements to it from the start of impulse purchase right through to that last track, Don't Give Up Now. I thought was absolutely amazing and a really nice track to finish off the album with as well. Like you can hear that you just didn't get locked into kind of one style, and you can hear these different elements and melodies and moods kind of coming into this album to moments of real introspection.
yeah, thank you. I will, yeah, another thing about this record too is I think like when I listen back to some of the older records, there's a lot of like, here's how I feel on the inside. And on this record, it feels much more like, here's what I'm seeing on the outside, you know? And like, and so it really feels a lot more expansive in that way. I think that, and I really like that. It feels like it's the most engaged with we've ever been. That feels really, really nice to connect to that.
Yeah, and you guys are really well known for your film clips. Like I come across you guys a few years ago. I was dating someone and they're like, you gotta check out OK. And then we went in this wormhole, I watched the treadmill one and just watched everything from there. And recently just had another friend mention you guys as well, and I was watching the One Moment film clip again, and you guys are really well known for these film clips that you're probably slowly regretting biting off more and more than you can bloody chew. But I will talk about both these film clips. The lead single was the first one, Stone Only Rolls Downhill. I think it was like 64 phones kind of lined up and all. It's amazing. Tell me a little bit about how you approach these film clips. Do you have a track in mind that you want an idea, or just tell me a little bit about the creative process for that? Because it's amazing watching these things, man. Like an absolute thing of beauty, but also mathematical fucking genius in my books.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. We used to play this game on tour called Exquisite Corpse, which was you would take a piece of paper and fold it in three or four, halves, and then someone would draw something on it, fold it under, make a line where you're supposed to start, and then someone else would draw whatever they wanted to draw there, and you'd like open it up, and you'd get like this, kind of like crazy sort of split page drawing, that's usually really funny, but sometimes can be kind of beautiful and all of that. That the idea of that was a little bit of inspiration behind this idea, this sort of like split screen idea. The song for which it was made is "A Stone Only Rolls Downhill," and Damien wrote the lyrics of that song somewhat to his kids, actually. Trying to kind of like balance this line in life right now where like life seems very crazy, like it's unprecedented and crazy. And I think he was sort of struggling. I think we all sort of struggle with how to communicate with the people in our lives to be like, you know, we have to be hopeful. We have to somehow find hope. Um, but without lying about the fact that things seem really kind of crazy right now, and trying to sort of keep, sort of having to balance between those two things feels like you're living in a split screen, sort of, between, hope and crazy. And like, so the idea to like take 64 iPhones and shoot individual clips within each iPhone that makes up a mosaic essentially of one thing, felt it felt like the song and the visual had a really nice relationship to one another in that way. And so, yeah, we ended up, I think we worked on that for about 3 months with our co-director, Chris Bongiorno, and just did so much testing. And it was a very laborious testing process because, every time you wanted to, even if you're just working with four phones, and you wanted to just see what one person walking from this phone to this phone to this phone to this phone looks like, you got to do each take for each one, and then you have to like process it and cut it together. And so even just to sort of see what that looks like, it took like an hour just to test that. And
Yeah.
that was the simplest part of our video, And so when you get into like 64 phones, it's crazy.
So you guys must be incredibly patient to kind of go through this process as well, but also see the bigger picture to it all as well with your visual concept and with the musical idea as they kind of evolve together.
For sure, yeah. A lot of patience is generally needed for any of our videos, but especially this one because we couldn't you couldn't just have an idea and then see if it worked or not.
Yeah.
You like have an idea and then you have to wait like 2 hours to see if it worked. Usually it didn't, so so it's like sometimes it could be kind of frustrating because it's just like, okay, here's another idea, like so. Yeah, it was a fun one to make, but it was a very like time consuming
Like
video.
all these film clips, it's probably twice as much fun once it's done and you get to watch the finished product. I just watched the doco up on the behind the scenes for the making of the Love film clip. That was absolutely amazing. I love the use of mirrors. And then Damien was mentioning about his kid's toy and holding up one of the kids' toys and then seeing that. I've done that before, so I totally get what he's
Yeah.
saying and I understand. So tell me about that film clip and the making of that one, because that's an unreal one as well.
Yeah, so the video for our song Love, we made in Budapest,
Yep.
in a train station in Budapest, and which is like very beautiful and very old. And we use mirrors and robots in this one, and we sort of do a sort of choreographed dance through a like mirror gauntlet of sorts. Yeah. And it's to me, it's like maybe the most elegant video we've ever made, and possibly the most emotional as well. Uh, I think, again, there's something about the marriage between the, sight and sound on this
Yep.
one. The idea that, the song is sort of all about expansive love and, and sort of like celebrating the opportunities in life where you can have the chance to feel that. Um, and so the working to make sort of like mirror, like the reflections of the mirrors, the sort of infinite reflections and kaleidoscopic imagery just sort of seem to match that magical feeling of expansive love. So that to us, that felt like a real home run conceptually. Um, this video took about 4 or 5 months from beginning to end. There was a big sort of like pre-visualization um, time period before we even got to Budapest to work on it. So we were able to kind of like use 3D rendering programs to pre-visualize everything we were going to do. But of course, once you get there and the actual robots are in the room and they're holding the mirrors and you're choreographing them, things change and new challenges arise, basically. Um, but it's, to us, it still feels like what we always like to do, which is make an event that we invite people in to watch. And we try to put as little between the lens and the audience
Yep.
so that you really feel like you're in the room with us. And, I think that uh, that comes from us, I think, starting as a band, in a live context where we love so much the feeling of being in the room with people and and we're all sharing a moment together. That comes from being on stage, being in front of people. And I think all we ever really wanted to do with a camera was just like have that help us, you know, bring some sort of situation to people when we can't actually be in front of them,
Yep.
you know. Um, and I think this video does a really good job of that, you know.
Yeah, and people can get a chance to catch you guys. You guys are on the tour at the moment in the US, so everybody needs to go over there and catch one of those shows that aren't sold out at the moment. A good day at last. I've got to mention that because Ben Harper, I love his music as well. What was it like working with him? And not only Shayla and Beginners as well. I believe she was from The Voice, wasn't she, over there in the US?
I believe so. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, the Beginners are a great band. Funny enough, the singer in the Beginners was my neighbor.
Oh, nice. Small world.
And yes, Sam was my neighbor, and she's in a great band also called the LAXs, who we're bringing out on tour with us in the States. And then, yeah, Ben Harper is a friend of the band. And yeah, we wanted to like work on something with him. We weren't quite exactly sure what, but we had this song "A Good Good Day at Last," and we wanted kind of like a gang of people to come sing with us, and we thought like, oh, maybe Ben will want to do it. So he came over one day and just like crushed it. Like,
Ben
I mean,
Harper.
so incredibly talented. Yeah. And his voice is just incredible. So it's just like a real thrill to be able to like sit there and hit record and be like, yeah, good job.
That's it.
There's nothing we could tell him, you know what I mean? Like we were just like, just be you. Um, so yeah, it was wonderful to work with him. We just did it in an afternoon, basically.
Yeah, he's like you guys though. He has this infectious personality, and it just kind of rubs off. And I feel that whenever I listen to your music or see your film clips, I always just come out of it feeling good, and also reflecting on nearly 30 years as a band for you guys. How do you keep the creative spark alive? And through so many changes and challenges, and the music industry's changed so fucking massively. Like this is an amazing album, and it kind of, you know what I mean? It's like sometimes the streaming platforms only listen to singles, but tell me about, the 30 years of you guys as a band and how that feels for you.
It's really lovely that we've managed to somehow get to almost 30 years.
Yep.
So many of the bands we started with don't exist anymore, for one reason or another. And Damien and I met when we were 11 at summer camp, and I would say the thing that we bonded over the most, and probably still do to this day, is just like we were just like we just loved talking about feelings, and we loved chasing feelings and emotion. Even as like little kids, like it's why we were such fans of music, because it was one of the most immediate ways to just feel something.
Yep.
I mean, music is so wonderful in that way. And the ideas, I don't know how they keep coming. The ideas are usually like these little seeds. These like we never have the full thing just mapped out in our heads. It's that comes from like us playing together, with an idea to sort of like come up with a million different things to try and to stitch together, to make one sort of event. But it's the feelings we're always chasing. I mean, I guess we're just like addicted to like emotion, I think, you know what I mean? And so Damien and I kind of found that with each other as little kids. And we met Dan Konopka, our drummer, like in our late teens, early 20s, and then found, another partner in spirit with Andy Ross. About 6 or 7 years into the band, we met him, and he joined the band. And yeah, when I try to think about, what can you boil it down to? I think it's just that. It's just like we love chasing feelings, and music is so great for that. Film is so great for that. When you marry them together, you get something even bigger than the sum of its parts. It's just like that's what keeps us excited.
Exactly. Music is art and art is life. And you guys have kind of married the both together. You also have that permanent collection at the Museum of Modern Art, and super proud of everything you guys done. It's absolutely amazing. What's the chances of getting back down under any time in the future? I got to ask, man.
The chances are super duper good. Yeah, we almost came this. We were about to come this summer. There was some scheduling conflicts, but that just means that now we're even, more inspired to come because there was a near miss, a near miss. But is that right? Is it a near miss or I don't know? It was close. It
It
was
was
close. It was
close.
already good. Yeah, but I think we're gonna be there probably sometime in the first part of the new year. So
Uh,
2026. Yeah.
Good time of year too to get over here, everybody. Till then, go grab and the adjacent possible, put it in the stereos, crank it up really loud. Tim, do you have any last words, shout outs, thank yous, or anything else you'd like to add in there, my friend?
Oh my gosh. I mean, thank you, Australia, for just being you. I love Australia. I really do.
Awesome. We love you. Can't wait to get you back down under, mate. Everybody grab some okay, go, crank it up loud. Cheers, mate.
All right, take care. Really.
Oi, you're tuned in to Jai That Aussie Metal Guy, so make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any of his sick content. And remember, stay brutal, you legend.